Welcome back to Smart Life. I am your host, of course, Dr. Gina Loudon, and it's always good to be with you. Now, one of the most important issues that you should have your eyes fixed on is this whole situation with radical Islam. And over the weekend, our president felt inspired to give some big compliments to the Islamic members of this country, thanking Muslim Americans for their many achievements and contributions. And he said that they have built the very fabric of our nation and strengthened the core of our democracy. No mention whatsoever of the terrorist acts that have plagued this nation, with very little comment from the Muslim community. But my next guest is here to talk about that. Pamela Geller from AtlasShrugs.com. Welcome, sister, to the show.
Hey, Doc. How you doing?
I am doing well. I'm always glad to have you on. I was telling my producer today on the way to the show, when he told me that you would be on, I said, you know what? She's probably one of the only people I can say that should get a lot more credit than she does for what she does do on a daily basis. I am constantly enamored of you. You are everywhere on these issues, and without you, honestly, I think this country would be lost. I think you belong in the history books, and we're just blessed to have you here today. Pamela, I've got to get your comments on the president's statement over the weekend. I'm sure that's all you've done on news shows for the last few days, but I have to get your take on it. This is so unbelievable. No mention whatsoever of any of the terrorist acts that have taken place in this country. No mention, by the way, of the Christmas holiday, or I believe the Thanksgiving holiday as well. The president sort of glossed over. No statements then, but we have the statement at the end of Ramadan for the Muslims, calling them achievers, contributors, building the very fabric of our nation, strengthening the core of our democracy. Take it away, Pamela.
Well, you know, he always uses Eid and Ramadan to show his support and advance the jihadist agenda. Did he not express his support for the Ground Zero Mosque at the iftar dinner a couple years back? The fact is, his statement is completely void of accuracy or truth. And his work in the cause of Islam apparently knows no bounds. He crossed the line with this particular message when he praised the contributions of Muslim Americans to build the very fabric of our nation. This is the Islamization of the American narrative. The fact is, the only role that Muslims played in early America was in the first and second foreign wars. The very first foreign war that America fought, the Barbary War, was the first of two fought against Muslim states in the Northwest Africa. And if you recall, President Thomas Jefferson refused to pay the jizya, being extorted by these Muslim countries, and he went to war. That's why, by the way, he had a Quran, which now everyone says, oh, Jefferson had a Quran. It shows that he was exploring Islam. No, he was reading the war doctrine of the enemy that we fought not one but two foreign wars, the first ones. I mean, do you remember the contributions made by the Muslim signers of the Declaration of Independence, or the Muslims who gave James Madison information about the Constitution of Medina that he used when framing the Constitution? Do we remember the Muslims who fought so valiantly during the War of 1812, or the Mexican War? Or how about the Muslim abolitionist senators who faced down the South? Actually, no, they were in Africa actually selling the slaves. This is outrageous, and this is how this whole bogus fiction, this fictional narrative, this is how it becomes part of the national dialogue, completely devoid of facts. It's like these museum exhibits, 1001 Muslim inventions. I can't tell you, Dr. Gina, how many articles I've written debunking them. When Muslims would attack and conquer a nation, that doesn't mean they invented the things that the conquered nation had invented. You know, India invented the zero, and yet it's constantly being given credit to the Muslims. No, it's not true. And so this is what we see, you know. And it's interesting. He's really become unmasked recently. Maybe because he's a lame duck, maybe because he has nothing to lose. What he's doing in this war, this brutal terrorist war against Israel. Today is, I don't know if you saw it, but he canceled any visas coming out of Tel Aviv. This is on top of the flight ban that he instituted last week. It was subsequently lifted, but they're shooting down passenger jets in Ukraine. planes are falling from the sky in Mali, but he is canceling a flight ban. It's like a boycott. It's like an economic isolation. It's the isolation of Israel. He's really a very frightening subversive. And I don't mean to sound, hyperbole or exaggerated. He is. A is A. That's what Aristotle said. It is what it is. He is what he is. And I think people should be terribly afraid because it's not just Israel where he sides with the jihad force. It's, in Libya, he backed the overthrow of it, largely secular, hardly a prince, I grant you. Gaddafi was hardly a prince. But my God, it's degenerated to a completely terrorist state. And by the way, Gaddafi contained the jihad threat. So you have Mali falling, and you see the jihad has gone wild in Central African Republic with Christians being slaughtered and Christian children being beheaded. Where are the cries for the Christian children of Nigeria? And where are the cries for the Christian children of the Central African Republic or in Syria or in Iraq? No. I wanted to say something about this thing with Israel because the world has been unmasked. Mm-hmm. And now everyone who said, how could it happen? How could the Holocaust happen? It's not possible. It's, what it is? It's frightening that it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah.
The Jews were accused of not defending themselves in Germany. The Jews were accused of not doing enough. Now they're defending themselves, and now they're accused of defending themselves. It's blood-curdling, the whole disgusting scene.
And the ironic thing is you were warning about these things way back. Everyone wanted to marginalize you or turn you into some sort of pariah for speaking the truth. Pamela, did the president celebrate Ramadan?
He did. He absolutely did. Now, remember something, that Obama is perceived in the Muslim world as a Muslim. No matter what he says, no matter what anybody says, understand his father was a Muslim, and when your father is a Muslim, you're a Muslim. If you recall, the last couple of weeks, there was a story about a woman, Maryam Ibrahim. Mm-hmm. Remember that story?
Sure, of course.
She was a woman who lived in America. She was raised as a Christian. She lives in New England with her husband. They went to Sudan to visit some relatives, and her Muslim relatives ratted her out. Her Muslim relatives ratted her to the police. She was arrested in Sudan. He did nothing. I mean, my God, she lives in America, raises her children in America. Her husband's American. And this woman is 9 months pregnant, is arrested, is jailed, is shackled, is forced to give birth in leg shackles. Her baby is born deformed. Why? Because she left Islam, even though she was never a Muslim, just because her father was a Muslim. They believe that. They believe Obama is a Muslim, and I don't think that, Jesus Christ said, by their fruits you shall know them, and so we know him. What has he done that is not aligned with the jihad force? Show me one instance where he has not aligned with the jihad force, whether it was Gaza, whether it was Syria. He aligned with Al-Qaeda and Muslim Brotherhood forces against Assad. He left Iraq, which was stable. I don't care what anybody thinks about Iraq. What the people they don't want to believe. They just want to say, oh, Bush lied, people died. Excuse me, everybody. The jihad was a-coming. The jihad was coming. It came to America in 2001, and we could debate the best way to go about, the best approach on how to fight it, but it was coming. You may not like the way Bush went about it, but he did stabilize Iraq, and it was stabilized. But if you leave, the war is still raging. This is not the Brady Bunch, and it's over at 30 minutes on the hour. Mm-hmm. This is a long and different war. It's not like a war we fought before. This has been an ideology that's around for 1,400 years. It was defeated by the British Empire in the early 20th century. The Ottoman Empire was the caliphate. And it was defeated by the British Empire. The British carved up the Middle East. They carved up Iraq. They carved up Syria. Nobody says anything about that. But the tiny Jewish state, that's a problem. Yeah. That's what everybody is having a nervous breakdown about, all this nonsense about an occupation. There is no occupation. Judea and Samaria, otherwise known as the West Bank. Nobody likes to say Judea because it has the word Jew in it, so it would show proprietary, it shows some historical connection. But the West Bank was given to the Jews, League of Nations, 1922, San Remo Resolution. This is international law. When the Muslim countries attacked it, when they attacked it, that was illegal. That was an illegal aggression. That was an illegal occupation. Now, we have to start talking in truth. And I want to thank you also for bringing up, for years, that yes, I have been demonized and marginalized for talking about the jihad threat, for daring to criticize Islam. And believe me, I want to just say I was right about, everything.
Everything,
okay?
yeah.
Everything. And there's no mea culpas. You don't see me now on CNN would rather have Hitler on than have me on, okay? You don't see me or my colleagues. The most, in my opinion, the most articulate, the most well-versed on the subject, whether it's Robert Spencer. You don't see him. You don't see Wafa. You don't see Wafa Sultan. You don't see Ayaan Hirsi Ali. The most articulate and the most informed and even the best scholars like Ibn Warq are nowhere to be seen at this time when the jihad is raging across the Middle East and across Africa. And no one is saying, it's like this 800-pound jihadi in the room. Nobody is saying what Obama is doing. Nobody is connecting the dots.
That's right. Well, Pamela, I'm sure glad that you are. Every time you're on the show, I feel like my brain increases in size. And certainly every time I read your articles at atlasshrugs.com. Thanks for being on with us, Pamela Geller.